morning, everybody. Thank you for being here today. This is our 9:30 a.m. Water and Land agenda, Wednesday, March 22nd. And first bill on the agenda is Senate Bill 362, relating to the conveyance tax. And first up, we have Don Chang DLNR, or her representative. Comments, and then testimony from Department of Taxation.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Shauna Ho, and I'm here on behalf of the Department of Taxation. The department stands on its written testimony and providing comments on this measure, and I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ho. HHFDC.
Good morning, Chair Ichiyama, Vice Chair Poi Poi, members of the committee, Denise Matsubara for HHFDC. We support the removal of the cap on the rental housing revolving funds. So for the committee's consideration, we really want to kind of explain the concerns that persist with regard to Section 2, which exempts real estate transactions involving units built under 201H38. That's the development exemptions. So what this would do, this exemption for affordable housing projects that already benefited from a state-assisted program, would further enrich the seller. As an example, our 201H program goes up to 140% EMI. That's for a family of four, about $183,000 for a family of four. The sales price at 4% can go up to $941,000 on a unit. At the CT rate, the conveyance tax rate at approximately 0.0025, that's about $2,300 a unit. Times that by 100, that's over $250,000. Times that by 1,000, that's $2.35 million. So just for the committee's consideration, the Section 2 on the further exemption for the conveyance tax, it's really the real estate transaction that we need to look at, and it's another source of revenue for rental housing revolving funds. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Matsubara. Next, we have Land Use Research Foundation of Hawaii. In opposition, Hawaii Realtors.
We stand under testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. In opposition. Next, we have Hawaii Housing Affordability Coalition on Zoom. Not present. Okay, Tax Foundation of Hawaii.
Yes, good morning, Chair, members of the committee. This is Jade McMillan on behalf of the Tax Foundation of Hawaii. We will stand on our written comments submitted on the measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McMillan. Catholic Charities Hawaii.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair. I'm Betty Lou Larson with Catholic Charities Hawaii. You have a written testimony, but I would like to highlight one thing, and that is that we all know we need to build more inventory, but the housing crisis has a larger impact, and that is homelessness. In order to really serve the needs on all the counties, they're all crying out for more staff, more ability to help the homeless. So we really encourage you to stipulate that 10% of the conveyance tax revenues would go to homeless services and supportive housing. And I want to target, as much as we need the homeless services, supportive housing cannot be built without some kind of dedicated stream of funding for services. You cannot build a building and say, oh, well, in 2 years we'll go back to the legislature and hope that they'll give them the money for these very frail seniors, for the homeless who really cannot be served in any other situation. Many of the homeless on the street need supportive housing ongoing in order to really make it off the streets and not return to the streets. So we have other suggested amendments in our written testimony, but we thank you very much for considering these 3 amendments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Larson. Next, we have Laura Thielen, Partners in Care on Zoom. Not present. Hope Services Hawaii. Kristen Alice on Zoom. Not present. Hawaii Appleseed on Zoom. Not present.
I'm here in person.
Oh, in person?
Yeah.
Would you like to come forward and testify?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Kenna, and I work with the Budget and Policy Center project of Hawaii Appleseed. And yes, I would like to reiterate the 10% for homeless services. I would also encourage higher rates, as were proposed in HB 1211. When you look at the numbers, you get way more revenue at those homes that are $4, $6, $10 million and above, and that's where we'll really capture value for the public. So I really encourage higher rates. San Francisco increased their rate to a top rate of 6% 3 years ago, and they've been generating significant revenue from that. And then I also wanted to back up what Director Denise was saying with HHFDC, which is that HHFDC has two types of affordable housing. One is through the low-income housing tax credit program. That program probably should be exempted from conveyance tax, and that's important. We want to exempt those low-income rentals that get all those tax credits. The other program, which is exemptions through 201H, that is very different. There's no public financing in that, and we don't have restrictions on how long they have to stay affordable. They can be sold after 10 years for market rate. Those should probably not be exempted from a conveyance tax. There's a very big difference from something that has to be affordable for 60 years versus something that can be sold at market in 10. Does that make sense? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have testimony from Summer Yadao.
Hi, good morning. I just wanted to also support the 10% for homeless services. I also wanted to testify that the people who are purchasing these second, third homes for $2 million or more, they are not hurting, and they're also not living here, so they're not giving quality to these islands. They are making money when they sell these properties from just sitting on them. They're making money off of the backs of us, the working class people, and especially the houseless people. This is my sister, Kehao Ka'awai. I just seen her on Maui after 5 years not seeing her, and she is houseless on Maui. So on the backs of her and others like her, these people, these investors buying these $1 million of price homes are making money off them. And it's time that we make them pay for make their profits off of people who are working here, who are living here, who are struggling to survive here, and especially the ones who are houseless because they couldn't afford to live here. We need funding for affordable housing. We need funding for houseless services. Those are the people who are in need, not the ones who have multi-million-dollar homes that are second, third, fourth investment homes. They are not struggling, and they are not investing in Hawaii again. So please release the cap and 10% to houseless services. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yadao. Next, we have testimony from Renee Ng. Testimony from Sterling Higa on Zoom. Not present. And then going back, David Penn from DLNR on Zoom.
Yes, good afternoon, Chair and Vice Chair and committee members. David Penn, Program Specialist with the Department of Land and Natural Resources. We were here earlier when you passed out House Bill 908 to increase the cap on revenue for the Land Conservation Fund, which is in the same section of the statute as the Rental Housing Fund cap. And we defer to all the other agencies on the rental housing issue, but we are proposing an amendment that would also remove the cap on the revenue for the Land Conservation Fund, keep us at a straight 10% as the 2005 legislature intended. And I can answer questions about that if you like. We have our written testimony. House Bill 908 is out of the Senate Water and Land Committee and waiting for a hearing in Ways and Means. And this is really our only other chance with this amendment to try to increase our revenue so that we can do more good for the community and the state with our land acquisition projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Penn. That's everybody who signed up to testify in Senate Bill 362. Is anyone else who would like to offer testimony on this measure? Okay, seeing none. Before we move on, I just want to let the folks know standing in the front of the door, we need to keep that way clear. So if you want to move in, you're welcome. I think I see a couple chairs. Just don't want to see anybody get hurt if the door should open suddenly. Okay. Senate Bill, members, any questions on Senate Bill 362? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move next to Senate Bill 376 relating to the environment. Testimony from Ted Boland, Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition.
Thank you, Chair Ichiyama, Vice Chair Poi Poi. Ted Boland for the Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition. I'm a little surprised to be testifying first here, but I'll take it. Seabed mining is a terrible idea environmentally. It is like strip mining that we do for coal, where we take the tops off of mountains and then throw the waste into the water. It leaves a toxic plume after it strips, and the impact on the bottom can't be good, but we don't know exactly how far it extends. It could take decades for the areas that get strip mined to recover. And these are areas with biodiversity that's very important to preserve. It has effect on marine mammals. It could affect not only fishing, but tourism. The states of California, Oregon, and Washington have all done this, and I would urge Hawaii to do the same. Let's ban strip mining like this, ban seabed mining in Hawaii and our waters, and I hope there will be action on the international level as well. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Mr. Boland. Next, we have testimony from Carissa Cabrera in support.
Hi there. My name is Chris Cabrera, and I'm testifying as an individual today in support. I'm standing on my written testimony, but I just want to highlight one comment, which is just that as this bill has moved through its steps, Canada has come out with a moratorium against this. There's a global effort to ban this. And so while the nodules that are being sought after for deep sea mining might not be in Hawaii state waters, the clause in this measure that would prevent operations for mining here is a very important one, because the polymetallic nodules that are being sourced in the North Pacific, if mining companies come and base their operations out of Hawaii, that could scale that work. So that's called the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, and it's where all of the mining would be happening. So global leaders have already taken on a moratorium, and it's an opportunity for us to do the same. So please pass this without amendments and protect that clause.
Thank you, Ms. Cabrera. Okay, that's everybody who signed up to testify today on Senate Bill 376. Is there anyone else who would like to offer testimony on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none. Senate Bill 1535 relating to transportation. First up, we have testimony from DLNR. Thank you. Next, we have testimony from Department of Transportation. And support, or on Zoom? Not present, okay. Office of Planning and Sustainable Development.
Aloha, Chair and Representative. I'm Tom Eisen, Senior Planner with OPSD's Environmental Review Program. The program former OHUC. I stand on our submitted comment, but I would like to emphasize that Chapter 343 process already provides agencies like the DOT the opportunity to exempt minor actions such as proposed in this bill from the erstwhile requirement of preparing an environmental assessment. This current exemption process does include some minor documentation and reporting provisions so the public can be aware of the action being exempted, and this bill would eliminate those transparency provisions.
Thank you, Mr. Eisen. That's everybody who signed up to testify on Senate Bill 1535. Is there anyone else who'd like to offer testimony on that measure? Seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, next, Senate Bill 304 relating to visitor impact fees. First up, we have DLNR.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Laura Ka'akua on behalf of DLNR. The department strongly supports this measure. It gives us a way to implement reciprocity in the protection and care of our cultural and natural resources. And we have many people here today to answer any questions that you have. Mahalo.
Thank you. Office of the Governor, in support. Office of State Planning and Sustainable Development.
We stand in support of our submitted comments.
Thank you. Department of the Attorney General.
Good morning, Chair Ichiyama, Vice Chair Poi Poi. I'm Daniel Morris, Deputy Attorney General on behalf of the state of Hawaii, and we strongly support this bill. It really would be an innovative program for Hawaii, And the foundation, the reason I'm testifying today is to address concerns about the constitutionality of this bill. And the primary reason that this bill would likely survive a constitutional challenge is because it addresses recreational interests that are owned by the state and held in trust for the people of Hawaii. And there's some cases that have been cited by the Tax Foundation suggesting that there may be a constitutional problem because of an impact on individuals' right to travel. And they cited a case from 1867. But nearly 110 years later, the United States Supreme Court addressed Baldwin versus Fish and Game, which I provided to this committee. And in that case, the court recognized specifically that even though states are obligated to treat those within their territory equally in most respects, they're not obligated to do so as to matters that are held in trust and that are state-owned for their own people. And when you deal with recreational interests like this particular bill addresses, the fundamental rights are not impacted. And certainly the Hanauma Bay case, the Daly versus Harris case, is an example of that. And in fact, that case went to the Ninth Circuit and was upheld and cited the Baldwin versus Fish and Game case that I provided to you. So for these reasons, we strongly urge the committee to pass this bill and to begin this innovative program to address impacts of non-residents on our precious natural resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Next, we have testimony from State of Hawaii Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Commission. Ms. Laramie.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Leah Laramie with the Hawaii Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Commission. We stand on our testimony in strong support of this bill. Our natural resources are really vital for our climate change goals and protecting those resources. This is really a great way to do that. Mahalo.
Thank you. Testimony from Hawaii Tourism Authority.
Aloha kako, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Ilihia Johnson for the Hawaii Tourism Authority. You have our written comments in support of the intent of this measure. Certainly defer to the experts in the room on the implementation. Just wanted to add that the core of our message to visitors to Hawaii is already to Malama Hawaii. And so we stand ready to incorporate these fees and whatever other kinds of education are needed to implement this. We stand ready to incorporate those into our educational programs. Mahalo nui. And we're standing by for questions.
Thank you very much. Okay, next we have Tax Foundation of Hawaii on Zoom.
Good morning. This is Jane McMillan on behalf of the Tax Foundation of Hawaii. We have submitted comments on the measure and we will stand on our written comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McMillan. Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition and Climate Protectors, Ted Boland.
Thank you again, Chair Ichiyama, Vice Chair Poi Poi, members of the committee. Ted Boland on behalf of the Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition and the Climate Protectors Hawaii. Taxpayers already fund a lot of all the costs of running the parks. It's only appropriate that visitors who contribute to the impact on the parks also pay something. This is a good measure, a $50 annual passport for the use of parks as opposed to a fee at the airport, which would not be legal, which I like to call a conservation passport as opposed to a green fee, because you're getting something for it's not just you're paying a fee, you're getting something for the opportunity to use our resources, which need maintenance and preservation, and so it's an important cost item for the state, and this is a good way to raise some money to protect those resources. So the groups I represent are in strong support, and we ask you to pass this measure. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next we have the Nature Conservancy.
Aloha Chair Ichiyama, Vice Chair Poi Poi, members of the committee. I'm Anthony Ching with the Nature Conservancy of Hawaii. We submitted testimony in strong support of the bill, and we asked you to move it forward today. And I just wanted to note that I actually learned that it's the United Nations World Water Day today, so I think it's a really appropriate day because this bill could actually, really help us as we care for our resources, including our water throughout the state. So definitely like to see this bill move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ching. Next, we have testimony from an individual. They just put down Hawaii green fee. Oh, okay.
I'm representing the coalition for Hawaii Green Fee, so that is around 45 nonprofit organizations and small businesses that are in really strong support of this measure. We stand on our written testimony. I just want to say I really appreciate all the attention that elected leaders and Governor's Office, Attorney General, DLNR are putting to the nexus of visitor impacts and where the fee is collected. I also just want to highlight that the impacts of visitors are felt across our ecosystems from ridge to reef and across our watersheds, both in state parks and outside of state parks. And so it's extremely important to our coalition that the green fee resources are also felt outside of state parks as well. A broad-based fee that addresses an ecosystem-based approach is, I think, would be the most effective long-term, as well as nonprofit organizations and community groups in our coalition and outside of our coalition working hand in hand with DLNR and state agencies. So thank you. We'll stand by for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Cabrera. Okay, next we have testimony from Durai Shin.
Morning. Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Duration, testifying in strong support of SB 304. Just want to highlight a few key points. One is the importance, as Carissa mentioned, of the broad-based green fee and really expanding both the collection and the impact of the fee beyond just state parks, because all of our ecosystems are connected, the reefs, trails, beaches, coastlines, they're not all in the designation of state parks. And so we need to make sure that the money that's collected and distributed is able to offset all the visitor impacts across the state. The other piece is the community grants program, which is in the bill. We just want to stand in really strong support of keeping that in. It's really important to recognize the amazing work that DLNR does and the amazing work that community organizations do across the state to preserve our ecosystems and offset visitor impacts. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Katarina Jinmi Im.
Hi, Vice Chair Ichiyama, Vice Chair Poi Poi, and honorable members of the committee. My name is Katarina Im. I'm 18 years old, and I'm a student at Pano School. And I'm testifying in strong support of this bill because the green fee matters a lot to me because Hawaii has been my home for the last 18 years of my life. And there's been times when I felt like our home was being taken away from us. So I used to go to Kahala Beach every Friday afternoon, and I would play on the sand and collect shells. And I've seen the shoreline just being taken away. And I feel like as taxpayers, if we are trying to do something to protect our home, I think that the visitors should also take part in that because after all, we all live under one environment and we're all trying to protect this special place. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Im. Okay, Elijah Ebert on Zoom.
Aloha. All right. Thank you very much for hearing my testimony, Chair, Vice Chair, and honorable members of the committee. My name is Elijah Ebert. I'm a university student and resident here in Hawaii. I testify on my own behalf here, but also acknowledge the excitement and support felt by many fellow students, classmates, and community members up here in Laie. I really like the idea of conservation passport or visitor contribution in the form of this environmental license. I live and work here up on the North Shore, and I see three specific things. The first is that the land and water, not just state parks, needs help. The places that we live, just like the young lady that was speaking earlier was talking about, the areas all around us, they all need help. And I free dive frequently here. I see the reefs falling apart. I see turtles with hooks in their fins, and I see fishing line everywhere. And there's so many very strong, passionate people here in Hawaii that just need the resources to help make change there. The second is that visitors to our islands are more than welcome to contribute, or more than willing. So I'm a guest services supervisor in the department of where I work, and I talk with hundreds of tourists every week, and they have a love for this place and are more than willing to contribute and take a small part out of their huge budget that they put aside for a trip to Hawaii to invest back into it. Lastly, these contributions, once they are given, they need to be used as properly as possible. So community grants are essential, and there should be a board of diverse stakeholders that take part in the fund allocation process. So once we help the ecosystem recover, it will regenerate and replenish on its own, and its capacity to give to us and our visitors and our children will increase. So then we can live with pride knowing that we were good stewards over the land and seas that we love. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ebert. Next on Zoom is Jack Kittinger. Not present. Yvonne Yoro. Not present. Okay. Would anybody else like to offer testimony on Senate Bill 304? Yep, please come forward and give us your name.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Camille Cleveland. I'm testifying on behalf of the Surfrider Foundation, Hawaii region. We stand by our written testimony. I just wanted to emphasize that as a local nonprofit and grassroots organizations, we see the work that our volunteers and community members put in to protect our environment day in and day out. We're an entirely volunteer-run organization, and we have volunteers that schedule and execute beach cleanups, that conduct water quality testing, that advocate for coastal resilience solutions. And I think it's due time that this responsibility of environmental protection shifts to a better balance between visitors and residents. So just wanted to highlight the efforts that ourselves and other nonprofits and the state and local agencies are already doing to protect the environment, and we're in strong support of a green fee to shift that responsibility to visitors of Hawaii. So thank you for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you. Anyone else like to testify on SB 304? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions?
Yep. Thank you for DLNR. Can you explain how this would work for someone who comes to Hawaii and needs a camping permit now?
Right. So there's a couple of factors which are all coming together to make the program successful. So one thing that the department's doing and being encouraged to do through legislation is we'll be doing a full new website. And really this website is a starting point for a lot of people visiting Hawaii, where they are looking for information on state parks and camping and et cetera. And so someone who would make their first stop the DLNR website for a camping permit, they would then be informed that we do have visitor impact fee, whatever we end up calling it, Malama Hawaii donation, whatnot, and that would be one entry point for them. So they would be prompted to pay their fee, and then they could go ahead and get a camping permit. They could reserve a spot at a state park, and so it would be sort of a funnel for them.
And the fees for camping are how much now?
Let's see if I have anyone from state
it
parks here.
per
It's very affordable. It's very, very affordable.
And
Yeah.
including minors.
Yes.
The children would have to pay that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions, members? This bill, okay, seeing none. Moving next to Senate Bill 1352 relating to housing. Okay, first up we have testimony from DLNR.
Hello, Madam Chair. I'm Vice Chair, members of the committee. Excuse me. I'm Alan Downer. I'm the administrator of the State Historic Preservation Division. Apologize for the late testimony. It's a technical error on my part. I deleted when I was submitting. Anyway, since it is late testimony, just take a moment to, the department has provided comments and appreciates the intent of this measure. I'll just take a moment to summarize it. The department agrees that the definition of historic properties, which relies entirely on age, is inappropriate, and that we have provided language that would rely primarily on the criteria for the Hawaii Register to define something as historic. We do believe that the 100 years that is in the bill is completely inappropriate. It would miss a whole range of important historic events, such as Pearl Harbor, statehood, and also much of the careers of some of Hawaii's most prominent architects. We also suggest an addition that would require the project proponents to pay for the third-party reviewers, in large part because we have no idea how much this will cost. We can't advise the legislature on a figure that would be appropriate to put in the budget for this purposes. We don't even know, we can't even estimate how many times it will be necessary to seek a third-party reviewer. We also believe that this will avoid, at very least, the appearance of a conflict of interest where the project proponent would go out and hire somebody on their own. And finally, we recommend that the requirement that these contracts be subject to review and approval by the burial councils is not appropriate because they only meet monthly. They don't always make a quorum, so at a minimum, it will take an additional month after we've selected a contractor for it to go before the burial council. And that's not consistent with the intent of the third-party review, which is to expedite the process. Be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Downer. Next, we have testimony from Department of the Attorney General on Zoom. Oh, Ms. Chow, you're here.
Hi. No, I'm here.
Great, thank you.
Hi, good morning, Chair Ichiyama and Vice Chair Poi Poi, members of the committee. I'm Deputy Attorney General Linda Chow. The department has provided comments on this bill. We basically have identified two issues with the bill. One is a subject issue, title issue, because the title of the bill is relating to housing, but none of the provisions in the bill actually are stated to relate to housing. The second issue is a germaneness issue. That issue was created by Senate Draft 2, where the historic preservation provisions were removed from the bill, and so we believe that the bill did not have adequate number of readings in a prior version. And we suggest that language be inserted into the bill to relate the provisions to housing, and that also that the bill receive additional readings to correct the germaneness issue.
Okay,
Thank you.
Ms. Chow. Next, we have testimony from HHFDC in support. BIA Hawaii in support. Hawaii Realtors.
Thank you. Lindsay Garcia from Hawaii Realtors. We stand in support of this bill.
Thank you. Evan Nayapoi, Evan Oi.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Evan Oi on behalf of NIAP Hawaii. We stand in strong support of this measure. We appreciate the amendments made by the previous committee chair to amend the definition of historic properties as well as put in the third-party review. We feel that both of these amendments will help expedite the permit review process, which is hindering the development of housing and much-needed infrastructure for Hawaii residents and to build housing units. So we stand in strong support of this measure and will be available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to offer testimony on Senate Bill 1352? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, next moving on to Senate Bill 948 relating to invasive species. Testimony from DLNR.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm from the Department of Forestry and Wildlife. We stand on our written testimony and support.
Thank you. Next, we have testimony from Hawaii Emergency Management Agency.
Aloha, Chair Ichiyama, Vice Chair Poi Poi, members of the committee. Adam Weintraub here on behalf of James Barros, Administrator of HIEMA. We stand on our written testimony in support of this measure and available for any questions.
Thank you. Anybody else like to offer testimony on Senate Bill 948? Seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, we're moving next to Senate Bill 775 relating to hunting guides. First up, testimony from DLNR.
Aloha, Chair and Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Lainey Berry. I'm here to, on behalf of Department of Land Natural Resources. We stand on our written testimony and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So everybody who signed up to testify on Senate Bill 775, anyone else like to offer additional testimony? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Yep, Rep. Susan.
For DLNR, our loan testimony. Thank you. Yes, for you.
Yes.
Thank you. I just had a question about the written permission. Are you guys planning on having forms for consistency and ease of use, or is
Yes,
that?
we can do that, yeah.
Was that your plan, or is that something that you guys are talking about doing?
I don't think it was our plan, because it's not currently required, but if it does pass, then yeah, we'll prepare a written form.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, moving next to Senate Bill 1498 relating to the protection of taro. And we have testimony from State Land Use Commission.
Aloha kākou, Chair, Vice Chair. We stand on our written testimony and support. If you want to ask us questions.
Thank you. That's everybody who signed up to testify today on Senate Bill 1498. Anyone else would like to offer testimony on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move now to Senate Bill 818 relating to aquaculture, and testimony from Hawaii Agribusiness Development Corporation.
Thank you, Chair Kiyama, Vice Chair Poipoi, members of the committee. My name is Jimmy Nakatani, Agribusiness Corporation. We stand in strong support of Senate Bill 818. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nakatani. Next, we have Department of Agriculture.
Good morning, Chair Ichiyama, Vice Chair Poipoi, members of the committee. Department of Agriculture stands on its testimony with comments.
Thank you. To everyone who signed up to testify on Senate Bill 818. Is there anyone else who'd like to offer testimony on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move next to the last bill on the agenda, Senate Bill 522, relating to economic development. And first, we have testimony from DBED.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Ms. Ibushi with DBED,
Thank you. Next, we have testimony from Department of Taxation.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Shauna Ho, and I'm here on behalf of the Department of Taxation. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. The department stands on its written testimony and providing comments, and I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Hawaii Tourism Authority.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members. For the Hawaii Tourism Authority, we stand on our written comments, expressing our strong reservations. It's a particularly fragile time to disrupt a management entity for tourism with economic uncertainty on the horizon. We certainly understand the need for a vigorous debate about this, and we look forward to continuing that conversation with this committee. Mahalo nui. We'll stand by for questions.
Thank you. That's everybody who signed up to testify on Senate Bill 1522. Is there anyone else who'd like to offer testimony on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, we're going to recess for decision making. Recess.
To the fund, and then in section 3 of SB 362 SD2 we're going to replace 247-7 relating to disposition of taxes with the language from HB 1211 HD1 section 4 247-7, and this amendment will remove the cap from paid into the land conservation fund and then add the language for the disposition language for the homeless services fund. And then also related to exemptions, we are going to bring in more language from HB 1211 HD1 relating to creating the exemption made to, relating to conveyances made to nonprofit organizations that hold the acquisitions as undeveloped and for conservation purposes in perpetuity. Members, any questions?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Please take a vote.
Okay, voting on SB 362 SD2 with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Chen.
Aye.
Representative Gandon.
Aye.
Representative Hashem.
Aye.
Representative Morikawa.
Aye.
Representative Takayama.
Aye.
Representative Souza.
Aye.
The recommendation is adopted. Thank you, members.
Okay, Senate Bill 376 relating to the environment. Recommendation, since this already has a defect date and a House Draft 1 on it, recommendation is to pass it out as is. Members, any questions? Okay, Vice Chair, as is.
Voting on SB 376 SD2 HD1 unamended as is. Are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next, Senate Bill 1535 relating to transportation. Again, this is already defect dated and has a House Draft 1, so the recommendation is to pass as is. I am going to note in the committee report the testimony from Office of Planning on whether or not the current process is sufficient, and we'll move it along for the next committee to consider. Members, any questions? Okay, Vice Chair, as is.
Voting on SB 1535 SD1 HD1 as is. Are there any noes or reservations? The chair's recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Senate Bill 304 relating to visitor impact fees. I think that this is a very important measure and one that deserves a little bit more work and consideration how the details of this program will be implemented. So my recommendation is to pass that as a House Draft 2. We're going to defect the date July 1. Oh, I'm sorry. The date is already defected. Sorry. Scratch that. House Draft 1. Technical non-substantive amendments. We're going to make Section 2, which is the Visitor Impact Fee Program, effective July 1, 2025, to allow the department to work on its implementation plan. And so that section on page 10, lines 9 through 4, which is paragraph D, which talks about that implementation plan. We're going to create a new section so that'll be implemented right away and have the department report back to the legislature by December 1st of 2023. And then whatever changes we need to make, we'll have a couple years to flesh this idea out and really make sure that we get it right and implement it right so it has the intended outcomes of benefiting the environment as well as making sure we're reinvesting in our natural resources. Okay, members, any questions?
Just a comment. Thank you for those amendments, Chair. My concern would be the fee being slapped onto minors. I think maybe we need to give more thought into that because sometimes you have field trips that the children come over and do some exploration, camping, what have you. So just a consideration because it can be very expensive when you start to slap on that fee and the other fees associated with that adventure. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Markella. Any other comments, questions? Okay, Vice Chair, House Draft 1.
Voting on SB 304 SD2 HD1 with amendments. Are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next, Senate Bill 1352 relating to housing. Recommendation is to pass out a House Draft 2. We're going to do technical non-substantive amendments. In order to address the concerns from the Attorney General, we're going to amend the definition of historic property 1 to include the DLNR amendment, but also to clarify that it's applicable if you are building affordable housing, so that we fit within the bill's title. Also going to add that the third-party review is for affordable housing only, and add in the DLNR's requested amendment to have the third-party review paid for by the applicant. We're going to insert a definition of affordable housing from 201H-57 subsection B. And I think that's it. Members, any questions? Okay, Vice Chair, House Draft 2.
Recording in progress.
Okay. Voting on SB 1352 SD2 HD1 with amendments. Are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, the chair's recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Senate Bill 948 relating to invasive species. This already has a blank amount, so we're just going to change the date to June 30th, 3000. Members, any questions? Okay, Vice Chair, with amendments.
Voting on SB 948 SD1 with amendments. Are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Senate Bill 775 relating to hunting guides. Same thing, members. We're just going to read the effective date, June 30th, 3000. Members, any questions? Okay, Vice Chair.
Voting on SB 775 SD1 with amendments. Are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Senate Bill 1498 relating to the protection of taro. The recommendation is to make technical, non-substantive amendments. We're still going to adopt the language from OHA in their testimony. We're going to add in an appropriation section to the Land Use Commission for completing the inventory and 1 FTE for GIS, as well as $40,000. We're going to change that section from may to shall. We're also going to delete in the definition of taro lands the term high productivity, as that may be too narrow. And then we're also going to say that the lands either are historic wetland taro or in current use on that definition. Okay, members, any questions? Okay, Vice Chair, House Draft 2.
Voting on SB 1498 SD1 HD1 with amendments. Are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Senate Bill 818 relating to aquaculture. I recognize some of the concerns from the aquaculture community about how this would affect their industry. So the recommendation is to pass out a House Draft 2, and I did speak with the Chair of Agriculture and received his prior concurrence on these amendments. I think what we want to do is leave the regulatory structure of aquaculture in Department of Ag. So the veterinary side, the aquatic species regulations all stays in Department of Ag, but ADC will be responsible for marketing, development of the aquaculture industry, promotion, which really to me is more of the wheelhouse of ADC. I don't think they want to be out there measuring the size of fish and whether or not they're, certain size or meet federal regulations. To me, the regulatory agency is Department of Ag, and the promoter of the industry is ADC. So we're going to make that amendment. So keeping the regulatory functions and positions in DOA. So we're going to add a new section to HRS Chapter 163D, which is the ADC chapter, to promote aquaculture. We're also going to appropriate funding and positions to ADC to help implement this new aspect, and add funding for an aquaculture park location to be determined. Members, any questions? Okay, thank you, Vice Chair.
Voting on SB 818 SD1 HD1 with amendments. Are there any noes or reservations? Okay, seeing none, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Last bill, Senate Bill 1522 related to economic development. I think this bill still needs some more work. It has a long way to go. It has a defective effective date, so we're going to pass this out as is. Comments? Questions? Okay, Vice Chair, as is.
Voting on SB 1522 SD2 HD1 as is. Are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. We're adjourned.